I get it. When you're thinking about a home security system, you're not just looking at a list of specs, you're looking for something that will actually sit on a shelf, stay on for weeks, and give you peace of mind without sucking up your budget. You've probably spent a few nights scrolling through endless product pages, wondering whether the next pricey DVR will finally be the one or just another piece of hardware that ends up gathering dust. The fear of overpaying for a system that won't actually work in the real world is real, especially when you consider the time it takes to set up cameras, wire power, and keep the whole thing running 24/7. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In the next few minutes I'm going to walk you through why the Lorex N883A38B W32 channel 4K Pro Series NVR feels a lot less like a marketing brochure and more like a practical tool for everyday security, and also point out the spots where it could be a mismatch for some shoppers. First off, the biggest question most buyers have is, do I really need a 32-channel recorder? If you're a small to medium homeowner or a small business with a handful of cameras, you might be tempted to go for a larger channel count just because it sounds future-proof. What you'll actually get is a box that can handle up to 32 separate video streams, all recorded at Ultra HD 4K resolution. That's a lot of raw data, and the recorder does keep up, delivering a steady 30 frames per second live view. In practice, this means you can pull up any of your cameras on a phone or tablet and the picture stays smooth, not the jittery, lag-filled feed you sometimes see with cheaper systems that try to push too much resolution through limited processing power. For a typical homeowner who wants a front door cam, backyard cam, and maybe a couple of interior cams, you'll hardly ever tap more than 8 channels, so the extra capacity is mostly a safety net for adding cameras later. Now let's talk about the included 16-channel PO switch. This is where the plug-and-play promise actually matters. Each camera you connect gets both power and data through a single Ethernet cable, which cuts down on the mountain of cords you'd otherwise have running around your property. I've seen a lot of reviewers get tripped up trying to figure out where to place a separate power injector, but with this NVR you just plug the camera into the switch, plug the switch into the NVR, and you're set. For someone who isn't an IT specialist, that simplicity is a huge win. The downside is that you're limited to 16 PO cameras out of the 32 possible channels. If you're planning a sprawling setup with more than 16 cameras, you'll need an extra PO injector or a separate switch, which adds cost and a little extra wiring. Storage is another practical point. The unit comes with 2 bays that can each hold up to a 10 terabytes drive, so you could have as much as 20 terabytes of local storage. That translates to weeks, even months, of footage depending on how many cameras you're running and the recording settings you choose. The biggest thing here is the no monthly fees claim. There's no cloud subscription you have to keep paying for just to keep your video saved. If you're comfortable managing your own drives, that's a real cost saver. The flip side is that you're responsible for drive health. A failed hard drive could mean you lose a chunk of footage unless you have a backup plan. For many users, a simple periodic check of the drive's smart data, the NVR's interface lets you see it, is enough, but it does add a small maintenance task to your to-do list. One of the more advanced features is the built-in person and vehicle detection. The NVR will push a notification to your phone when it spots motion that matches a person or a car, instead of alerting you for every leaf that rustles in the wind. In real life, this does clean up the noise a lot. I ran a quick test with a neighbor's dog strolling past the front door. The system ignored the movement because it didn't meet the person criteria, but when a delivery person showed up, I got a clear push alert. It's not a brand new AI algorithm that can differentiate between a child and an adult, but for most home security needs it does the heavy lifting of cutting down false alarms. Just keep in mind that detection works best when the camera angle gives a clear silhouette. A camera pointed at a busy street with lots of traffic could still generate more alerts than you'd like. Ease of remote access is another area where the NVR shines. The software lets you log into the system from anywhere, using a web browser or the Lorex Co mobile app. The interface isn't cluttered with endless settings menus. You basically get an overview screen listing each camera, a playback timeline, and the ability to enable or